साथियों शुरू करते हैं. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whichever part of the world you're listening from. We are very happy to have you with us. It gives us great pleasure on behalf of the Forum for Policy Dialogue on Water Conflicts in India, to short form being Water Conflict Forum, to have you with us in this second webinar of the series on floods in India. And as you know from the title, it's a critical engagement with floods in India. And this is the second in that series that we have. The first was very enriching with the discussions about the floods in varied topographies from the Himalayas and the turbulent pace of the rivers in the Himalayas to the Gangetic and the eastern plains, to the rivers of the plateau regions, and what the ebbs and the flows and the ascendants and descendants of the rivers. We had a very interesting discussion that traversed not only the topographical and the geomorphological issues, but we also looked at issues of how these are perceived by communities in terms of looking at the ascendancy and the descendancy of the rivers, how communities perceive them, how engineers have perceived them, and where those shifts have occurred. So we already have before us the kind of polarities that have driven the discourse on the rivers and on the floods in India from the varied regions of the country. We had an intergenerational view also coming into that process, and Mishra ji also tied it into the whole historicity and the epistemic issues that have emerged in this discourse. So without going further into what has already been discussed, along with my colleague Nafisa Barot, who's here with me to co-moderate the session, we'll go straight into our discussion for today, which is looking at floods from the nuanced realities of a grassroots perspective. And for that, we have with us 7 speakers. We will be introducing the speakers as they speak before you. But just to say that we are starting from the eastern sector, from Assam, from Bihar, from Odisha, from Jammu and Kashmir, from Maharashtra, from an urban perspective in Bombay, and from Kerala. So without further ado, I'll invite my colleague Nafisa to say a few words in welcome to you all, and then we'll proceed with the discussions and invite the panelists to speak before you. Thank you, Nafisa.
Thank you, Soma, for that very, very well captured introduction. I would just like to just add to the series of things that you said, that it is so little surprise that poets have often waxed lyrical about life-giving properties of river and stream. You know, so it is you know, one keeps wondering where these rivers have got lost. You know, all the things that you read in poems and in the poetry and things like that. And so it is the damming of the river, it is concretizing, or it is really the pathways for polluted water, you know, to flow in it. I come from Ahmedabad, you know, Gujarat, and it is so sad that we have lost our Sabarmati, Gandhiji's Sabarmati. Today, Sabarmati has just become a canal of polluted water. So with that, I mean, I know that this is a very, very important session that we are beginning, and we are all very keen to listen to the experiences and the coping mechanisms that each one of you, all the speakers, they're coming from different areas that, you know, that they will be really talking about. And I think that this will be a great learning for all, and also for the policymakers, that, you know, what really needs to be done and how people are really coping up. So we welcome you all, I mean, participants as well as all the speakers and the participants to this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nafisa. Just a few points of order before we begin. सभी साथियों को कि हम 6 मिनट के बाद, आप जब बोलेंगे तो 5 मिनट के बाद हम थोड़ी सी घंटी बजाएंगे so that you do not have a problem with time management. We'll try not to be too strict, but we can't be too flexible either. Given the paucity of time and having so many speakers, it's important to get your experience. जी दीदी, आपको थोड़ा सा अपना माइक को म्यूट पे रखना पड़ेगा अभी। जब आप बोले, जब आपको आमंत्रित करेंगे तब आप बोलिएगा। बहुत अच्छा है कि सभी जुड़ पा रहे हैं। We are going to give each person about 5 minutes to speak and then a minute extra to be able to wind up. We are hoping that through your presentations today, we will be able to dig deeper into the realities of rivers and floods in the context that you are in across the various topographies of the country. So I will now first invite our speaker from Assam, Krishna Chatradharaji, to speak. Krishna Chatradharaji is an eminent river activist and a social researcher, and he speaks very eloquently and knowledgeably. And the one thing that we do want to do is to trace the knowledgeability and the construction of knowledge and how that has been occurring over the decades in our regions. And what is it that we are seeing a shift in that knowledge of the river in coping with the issues or the plains, and coping with the issues of the floods that are occurring? What are the unique features of that flood and how have they changed in the recent years? And what do we see as the role of the state, and what would we recommend? I would suggest that the last minute is spent on really looking at what is it that we have to say to the state and what is the role of the state, so that we really enter into the dialogue space with the state. Thank you. चत्रधारा जी, आप बोलेंगे? आपके 5 मिनट अभी शुरू होते हैं, 6 मिनट.
Thank you, everybody. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So yes, I'm from a place where the flood comes every year, silted our houses up to its rooftop, and also the destructions due to certain beach of embankment are already always there. And now the new inclusion is the dams. The huge, huge amount of water comes down suddenly due to release water from those upstream dams comes very common now. The Ranganadi Hydroelectric Power Project, the Kopili, the Kuris were the live example of such kind of recurring incident. Above all, the flood due to climate intervention, Chinese interventions in upstream of
Chatradhara ji, we are not able to hear you clearly. Could you please come closer to the mic in your computer?
Okay, now yes. You're getting?
Yes, please stay close to the mic.
Okay, so including the devastations, the new inclusion is the Chinese interventions on its upstream of Brahmaputra in a new phenomenon for us. We have an experience from last 2 decades, and also nowadays the sudden unpredictable heavy rain is common for us. Some people say it's because of the climate change, but we are not sure at all. So in my place, you can divide our floods in many categories, like local flood, we call it, the interstate flood, like floods coming down from Arunachal Pradesh, and the international floods coming from the Chinese counterpart, and lately introduced flood due to the climate change. So we have 4 different kind of flood perception there. So on the other hand, when we speak about a flood in my area, you can't ignore, you must say about the erosion, kind of erosion taken place. So when the floods water goes down, fluctuated river start cut it erode hectares and hectares of land. Thousands and thousands families become homeless. There is no place for them to live. Only way is to go away. And somehow to manage to capture some land in the nearby forest. And finally, what happened? Finally, they face huge eviction from the forest department, from the forest where they like to settle. This is the real situation. This is the sense of indigenous rights in my place in terms of flood affected people. So we are the people, poor people living in this vulnerable area covered with full of rivers. In an average, you can get a river in every 8 square kilometer of my place. The mighty Brahmaputra is in our south, and many tributaries flowing down from its north, the hilly side of Arunachal Pradesh. You may hear the name of river like Siang, Subansiri, Ranganadi, etc. We thought that we are the most unlucky people living in this place. We have been born here, always need to think about flood. I mean to say that we have the notion that only plain people get the flood. But it is shockingly, we are hearing now that the hilly peoples also getting right now the floods. How it's happening really, actually, really we want to know. So, our people, our people like to live in the river bank with the river. Now they become afraid of the same river where our forefather lives there happily. The transition of this afraid and happy living is the very interesting one. I realize we need to think of it. Our communities have long history of living with river, long history of living with flood. They know how to adapt with flood. That is living with the stilt house, site selections for building constructions, houses constructions, preparedness for the flood water before the monsoon comes, preserve the food, preserve the essential needs, repair boats, send the livestock to safer place. Above all, the sense of early warning among the people based on their traditional knowledge was one of the interesting ones. In some places, still the mechanisms of the traditional knowledge is trying, maintaining well a bit. But the evolving of those traditional mechanism of coping has been already been interrupted long back during the time of introducing infrastructure, protective measure for flood. That is the embankment. That is the just embankment just after coming after the 1951 we call it after the Great Assam earthquake. And lately it has been introduced very badly by these dams. Already commissioned projects and the project supposed to be come up. So already we have more than 5,000 kilometers of embankment in my state and fully become dependent on it now. We born and grow in the era of full of embankment everywhere in my place. Never seen any river that his or her catchment is free from any embankment. There is no space for the new constructions for new embankment in my river, especially in my place. Now I realize the embankment become only shelter point for when the flood comes. Generations of flood and erosion affected families grew up on the embankment. It is very visible in my place, very visible, very near to me. My CM constituency is the Majuli, the world's biggest river island. It's a full of such kind of evidence. Once you visit to the Majuli from Jorhat side, by crossing the Kamalabari Ghat, you can see thousands and thousands of people living in the embankment. It is true, our generations, even I'm now in above 40, we have not seen any natural flood water here. We have seen only the embankment means floods here. It has become only the tale of my grandfather. The natural flood is become tale of my grandmother farms. That is the only way we heard about the natural flood. We have already lost our perception on floods. What flood was? Flood is still there. It's going on. It's heavily raining here from last 5 days. And people are in relief camp taking shelter in the embankment. High-rise platform is there. In the situations here, and this situation actually just I like to appeal the policymaker for this webinar to something immediately for it to do for these affected people and also think long-term realistic mitigation plan, in-time interventions to manage, understand, mitigate, coping, whatever so and so what we are using for. So lastly, I'll appeal for the everybody for an immediate cumulative need assessment for homeless peoples who have been affected families due to flood and erosion and support them well. And secondly, I'll appeal, we observe that the flood is going bigger and bigger, worse than earlier. River bed are rising super fast, not able to flush out the silt from the riverbed. And it is the major cause of flooding here. And the embankment is the culprit, not permit to flush out the silt from the water to its catchment. river also like to divert their channel. We need to give her appropriate space for it. And third is the high-risk platform early warning mechanisms. Embankment
Okay.
constructions become one of the recurring costs now in the name of flood protection.
चतुर्धारा जी, मुझे आपको यहाँ शायद मेरी घंटी सुनाई कम दे रही है, तो आपको मैं यहाँ रोकूंगी क्योंकि और लोग भी बोलेंगे, and then we come back to you for question and answers. So please hold those thoughts. You've given us very important issues that the multiple tributary system of the Brahmaputra, and you are in the midst of the flood of the Subansiri River even now, and you shared with us that it is even in your home. And although people have their own systems of adaptation, there are circumstances that have caused these floods, which also relate hugely to the embankments in the region that have been built, leaving little space for further innovation and very little space for even the livelihood activity, so that people are even pushed into the forest. So how do we balance this situation is a issue you have flagged very appropriately, and how do we look for the solutions in the midst of this complex diversity of high erosion, high flooding, people's patterns of preparedness being disrupted, and further the embankments and state policies imposing upon the landscape of the region. Shakila Didi, मैं आपके पास आऊंगी, आपका बटन म्यूट है, जरा उसका ध्वनि आनी चाहिए, तो कोई मदद कर दे शकीला दीदी को, उनके जो म्यूट बटन है उसको ठीक कर दें ताकि वो बोल पाए। हम शकीला दीदी की बात सुनना चाहेंगे, उनके साथ कोई बैठे हैं तो उनसे प्लीज नेहा रिक्वेस्ट की जाए कि वो म्यूट बटन को हटा दे। शकीला दीदी बिहार से हैं। Shakila is from Bihar. She is a resident of Neyam village in Hanuman Nagar block of Darbhanga district, which has been one of the districts that has been experiencing the floods in enormous quantum over the last few years. And she has also been, she is currently a mobilizer, community mobilizer with the Jivika program, which is a huge women's livelihoods empowerment program in the state. Shakila Didi will speak about the village in the Bagmati embankment. Shakila Didi, आप अपनी बात बोले। जो बागमती के इलाके में आप रहती हैं, वहाँ पे बाढ़ की परिस्थिति के बारे में और आपके जो अपने अनुभव हैं उसकी बदलती धारा के उतार चढ़ाव के, और आप लोग कैसे उससे जूझ रहे हैं और सरकार से क्या कहना चाहते हैं, आप जरूर बोलिए। शकीला
दीदी, यही कहना चाह, मेरी आवाज जा रही है दीदी? यही कहना चाह रहे हैं दीदी कि हमारे गांव में जो बाढ़ आती है, हर एक साल बाढ़ आती है, बहुत ज्यादा पानी आ जाती है हमारे गांव में, और इतना परेशान हम लोग हो जाते हैं कि खाना पीना का भी व्यवस्था नहीं रहते हैं उनको, गरीब दीदी सबको सब कुछ का दिक्कत हो जाती है दीदी, पानी का भी दिक्कत, खाना पीना का भी दिक्कत, यही सूखा राशन अगर ऊपर से हेलीकॉप्टर से गिराया सरकार, वही खा करके दीदी बिताती है। और दीदी सब झुग्गी झोपड़ी बना करके बांध पर जा करके रहती है, बहुत बहुत दीदी सब, किसी को छत मकान का घर रहता है, अमीर आदमी सबको, उनको छत मकान पर हम लोग रहते हैं जी। और ज्यादातर हमारे गाँव में दीदी कच्चा का मकान है सबको, मतलब फूस झोपड़ी का घर है पूरे पंचायत में। जैसे कि हम लोग का प्रखंड है ना हनुमान नगर, तो वही हनुमान नगर प्रखंड पूरे 14 गांव का एक प्रखंड है, मतलब 14 पंचायत का एक प्रखंड है। पूरे प्रखंड हम लोग का मतलब बाढ़ इलाका में फंसा रहता है। हर एक साल इतना पानी आती है, जो पानी आकर के जम जाती है हमारे गाँव में, और जमने के बाद हम लोग का इतना दिक्कत हो जाती है, पानी तो कहीं जा नहीं रहा है। बागमती नदी है हमारे गांव के किनारे किनारे, मतलब बागमती के किनारे मेरा गांव है जी, पूरे पंचायतें गांव नदी के किनारे में।
तो पानी जो आने में पहले और अब में कुछ अंतर आया है क्या?
नहीं दीदी, पहले जो आती थी पानी पहले भी आती थी, और इस बार जो जितना पानी आया है, कौन बात को तो छोड़िए दीदी, मगर हमारे घर में और आंगने में पूरे गांव के दीदी सबको 4 फीट से भी ज्यादा पानी था। इसीलिए हम लोग का दिक्कत इतना हो रही है, तो पूछिए मत। क्या करें, हम लोग बहुत दिक्कत की समाधान करके उस गांव में हम लोग जी रहे हैं।
जी जी। और आपके जो आपने कहा कि बांध पे जाके रहना पड़ता है, तो
जी।
पशुओं का क्या कीजिएगा? पशुओं का
हम
क्या करते हैं आप?
पशु को भी वही बांध के ऊपर में धूप में रखते हैं, प्लास्टिक को झोपड़ी बना करके रखती है दीदी लोग सब, और वही में कितना पशु मर जाती है, कितना रहती है, बहुत दिक्कत होता है हम लोगों का गाँव को आदमी सबको।
जी
क्या करें, बहुत दिक्कत का सामना करता है हम लोग।
जी। और पहले जब आप लोग अपना बाढ़ देखते थे और उसके साथ जूझते थे, क्या बाढ़ उतने ही समय के लिए रहता है अब भी, या ज्यादा समय बढ़ गया है या घट गया है अगर 10 साल पहले की?
इस बार तो बढ़ गया है दीदी।
अच्छा।
जैसे कि 3 महीना पानी हमारे पंचायत में रह करके गई है, फिर पानी आकर के घेर ली है,
जी जी।
पूरी अभी घेर गया है।
अच्छा, ये आपको क्या लगता है क्यों ऐसा हो रहा है?
अब हम लोग को क्या मालूम कि क्यों ऐसा हो रहा है दीदी, ये तो
जी
प्रकृति का देन है पानी, तो इसको तो हम रोक नहीं सकते हैं। इसके बदलाव के लिए तो कुछ कीजिए, जैसे कि जब कड़े नदी है, कड़े नदी में उधर स्लुइस गेट हो जाए या पानी का बहाव हो जाए, तो वही हम लोग के लिए फायदा होगा कि हम लोग को मतलब पानी आएगा, कुछ दिन के लिए चला जाएगा, तो अच्छा है कि हम लोग मतलब चैन से कुछ दिन रहेंगे। 3 महीना हम लोग को गाँव में पानी परेशान कर देती है दीदी।
3 महीना?
जी, इतना दिक्कत हो जाती है हमने दीदी लोग सबको, दवा बीरो के लिए भी दिक्कत हो जाती है, राशन पानी के भी दिक्कत होती है, घर से निकलने का इतना दिक्कत हो जाती है कि नाव का भी व्यवस्था नहीं है दीदी, फिर भी क्या
अच्छा
करें। और यही हम लोग दीदी, जो हम लोग जीविका चला रहे हैं, वहीं से भीओ से लेन देन करके दीदी सबको पैसा पैसा दे करके थोड़ा मदद करते हैं। जैसे सब गांव घर में कर्जा लेती थी, 5 रुपये सैकड़ा लेती थी, अब नहीं ले रही है दीदी दीदी सब। अब हम अपना भीओ से अपना दीदी जमा करती है, हमको जीविका से 15,000 रुपया वो मिला, 1.5 लाख मिला, यही सब से लेन देन करके दीदी सब अपना जीवन यापन कर रही है, और धीरे धीरे अपना पैसा सधा रही है। क्या करें।
तो आपका जो कार्यक्रम है जीविका का, उससे
जी,
आप लोग कैसे मदद लिए हैं इस वक्त बाढ़ के लिए? क्या मदद मिले हैं?
बाढ़ में यही मदद मिले हैं कि हम लोग को जीविका से पैसा मिला है, पैसा से अपना दीदी सबको लेन देन किए हैं, और जीविका से चावल मिली है, चावल दीदी सबको दिए हैं बाढ़ में।
जी जी।
खाद्यान्न का खटारी जो होता है, वही हम लोग देते हैं सब दीदी को, खिलाए हैं।
ठीक ठीक ठीक। तो ठीक है, आपकी बात पे वापस आएंगे
जी
जब सवाल जरूर आते हैं, तो
जी
आपसे जरूर सवाल पूछना चाहेंगे।
जी
आप बने तो आपको हिंदी में भी बताते रहेंगे।
जी।
Shakila Didi has highlighted the fact that the period of flooding
जी,
has
आवाज नहीं आ रही है दीदी, आवाज रुक रही है।
increased significantly this year. दीदी, हम आगे
हाँ
चलते हैं और हमारे जो भाई हैं
दीदी। जी
उड़ीसा से, उनकी भी बात सुन लेते हैं। मैं आपकी बात को हिंदी में अनुवाद, अंग्रेजी में थोड़ा सा अनुवाद करते हुए लिंगराज जी को बुलाऊंगी कि Shakila Didi has highlighted the facts about the extended period of flooding and the extended period of having to cope with living on the dams, on living on the embankments that the state government has put up across the countryside of Bihar to deal with these floods. In terms of the support from the program, she talks about the relief that has been provided in terms of food security, but she does not mention any other kind of support that has been forthcoming. So we'll hear from her later about that. I'd like to move now to Lingraj ji. Lingraj ji from Odisha is a social activist, a politician, and formerly affiliated to Samajwadi Jan Parishad. He comes from the Bargarh district in Western Odisha and works on for 30 years on social, environmental, and farmers' issues. He is also a frontline worker of the Paschim Odisha Krishak Samanvayan Samiti, which is the Farmers Coordination Committee of that region, and has been very actively involved in dealing with the plants, representing people's issues. लिंगराज जी, आपसे हम सुनना चाहेंगे आपके अनुभव, क्या बदल रहा है परिस्थितियों में, कैसे लोग इससे जूझ रहे हैं, और सरकार का इस दरमियान क्या रवैया है, क्या सोच है और क्या तरीके हैं. लिंगराज.
Namaste, Jindabad to you all. I am very glad to be a part of this webinar. As I have been introduced, I stay in a place which is in the western part of Odisha, which is adjacent to Chhattisgarh. And as I would like to intimate that we were associated with SOPECOM in this water conflict forum around 2007 and 8, when we were spearheading an agitation for the farmers' right of water in Hirakud Dam, which was built around 6 decades ago. And our state government in Odisha had signed MOU with various mineral-based industries to give water from Hirakud Dam. And during that period, to study and to know ground reality of the situation, the friends of SOPECOM and Water Conflict Forum had come to our area, and we have been associated since then. When we discuss about the flood dimension, I would like to inform that when Hirakud Dam was constructed just after our independence, it was considered that floods take place in the coastal districts of Odisha. Our area is not coastal, and to mitigate the flood situation in the coastal area, one of the major reason for constructing this Hirakud Dam. But during this beginning of the 21st century, we are observing an interesting and a peculiar situation in our area. Then the backwater of Hirakud Dam is creating flood situation in many villages of Bargarh district, as well as some villages of Chhattisgarh. To say about its number, in Odisha, we have about 5 to 10 villages which face flood situation when there is heavy rainfall around Hirakud Dam, both in western Odisha and Chhattisgarh as well. But in Chhattisgarh, Raigad district, about 25 to 30 villages face flood situation. And in 2003, there was a flood situation in these villages. In 2007, there was a flood, but when we are associated with the farmers movement related to this Hirakud Dam and water conflict issue, in 2011, there was a heavy flood, and we had gone to that area, surveyed the area, and met the people. And this year also, when in the mid-August, there was heavy rainfall. Simultaneously in Chhattisgarh and western Odisha, there was a flood situation. And there was the villagers who were affected due to this backwater, they faced a very precarious situation. And in these villages, which count around, as I told you, 30-35 villages, I had visited those villages with our activists. And when we discuss with the villagers about the flood situation, they say that before 2003, there was never a flood in this area. After 2003, floods are occurring in this area due to the backwater of Hirakud Dam. And they are telling 3-4 things that I would like to share. First point is that the river bed, they have been observing that river beds of Mahanadi also having siltation, very fast siltation. In many villages which are border to this Mahanadi river, they say that about 30-40 years, the depth of the dam was around 10 feet or 20 feet. They are having now depth only 3 to 4 feet only. Due to siltation in the river bed, the water is coming, entering their villages. And second point, they are telling that in this Mahanadi adjacent area, fast deforestation, and at the same time, since this is an area having coal mining, and due to coal mining and deforestation, this siltation is taking place. Siltation is taking place in the riverbed. At the same time, Hirakud Dam also, its water carrying capacity is getting decreased due to siltation. In Hirakud Dam itself, around 35% area of the Hirakud Dam has already faced siltation, and this is a major problem. And at this critical juncture, the government keeping an eye on the water of this Hirakud Dam. Many mineral-based industries have come up around in this area, in Sambalpur, then Jharsuguda and Raigad, these districts. And this is a very major aspect, that due to deforestation and mining around this Mahanadi river, siltation is taking place and floods are occurring in this area. Earlier floods did not take place. Second aspect that villagers are telling is that initially, like 2003 flood, though paddy fields were inundated, there was no damage of paddy. But after during 2011, and this time also, farmers are telling, then when there is inundation of paddy fields, paddies are getting totally destroyed. And they have a hunch that since around this Hirakud Dam as well as this adjacent to Mahanadi river, many mineral-based industries have come up, and their effluents are entering the river in Hirakud Dam. Effluents, chemical effluents coming during the flood is creating this type of situation. Hence, villagers are feeling, and during this period also, in all these villages I am talking about, this time houses have not been damaged in a large numbers, because in 2011 many people had mud houses and those were destroyed. But in the meantime, many villagers have been given concrete houses, and they were not destroyed, but paddy fields were inundated, and there was a very massive destruction of paddy. This is three aspects that I would like to share with you.
बहुत बढ़िया, थैंक यू सो मच लिंगराज जी, आपने बहुत ही बढ़िया से एक ऐसा दृश्य हमारे सामने बनाया. We have quite diverse landscapes being portrayed by all the three speakers from the eastern region, and each of them has spoken about coping with the floods as a natural rhythm, having shifted to coping with the floods as a disaster, coping with adaptive technologies and processes in plantation, in housing, in methods of managing animals, has shifted to really having to look for immediate relief, because the scale of the problem as well as its diverse manifestations aggravated by the footprint of development. Both the Lingraj-ji and Chatradhar Bhai have spoken about how the impact of the river is on the forest, and the forest denudation is also impacting the river and its siltation processes, along with the coal mining and the siltation that is happening in the river, and the river changing course because of these problems, and the flooding that is occurring due to the waters inundating the fields, and a huge risk to livelihood, especially at these times of COVID pandemic, when people are actually depending on the fields to be able to see them through, and the state is eulogizing the agricultural sector for being the backbone of the economy to uphold it in this time of crisis, we find that these kind of things are also happening, which are hugely impacting people's abilities to cope and survive. Thank you very much to all the speakers so far. I will now request my co-moderator, Nafisa ji, to please take over for the discussion following.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just continuing in this with the previous discussion, and I think Soma ji has laid down very clearly what is expected in terms of from each speaker. So I am not going to go much into those details. I would like to invite Mr. Iftikhar Drabu from Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir. So there are going to be two speakers from Jammu Kashmir. So first will be Iftikhar Drabuji. Iftikhar ji has been a civil engineer and has about 40 years of experience in construction industry on various types of infrastructure within India and outside. He's worked with government and semi-government projects. At present, he is in Noida and at Nordic Design Center. He's very passionate about writing about infrastructure in the newspapers. And I'm sure that he will give us a very good understanding of what he thinks, how the infrastructure and what is the relationship between the infrastructure in the context of Kashmir, infrastructure and floods. So Iftikhar ji, please kindly put your thoughts forward. Hello. Hello.
Iftikhar ji, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Just getting my head around it. Yeah,
Oh, I'm
apologies.
sorry.
So thank you very much, Nafisa ji, for the introduction, and I'll try to capture as much as I can in the very short time. At the outset, I would like to thank World Water Conflict Forum for inviting me to share my thoughts on the floods in Kashmir. Quite honestly, talking about floods in Kashmir, I and my family, like 3 or 30 lakh Kashmiris, suffered the trauma and devastation of the floods that took place in September 2014. There are a couple of pictures. I don't know, Nehaji, if you can kindly share the first 2 of them, which I thought I'll just share with you while I speak. Till then, as most of us, this is a representative picture. I just picked up slides. You can see the level of inundation. On the bottom slides, there are the rooftops. So there's a complete havoc, whole of the city, the central business district, the main installations were all inundated. Till this happened, we had already heard or read about floods, but never felt it. And after this, one felt the pain, the agony, and the sufferings related with floods. The trauma in Kashmir is so severe that even today, 6 years down the line, heavy overcast sky, a few hours of rain, and everybody in Kashmir is tracking the water levels, fearing the worst. Our Facebook posts are testimony to the anxiety and the worry people have. There's a next picture also, if you could please. This is the level of devastation. It captures the level of devastation of the infrastructure. Right now, in the middle is the main hospital. You can see the ward building, and the level, it's completely submerged the areas. And then there is a third picture also, if you can get to the next one. This captures, I've just briefly captured the main offices, the command and control centers, as we call it. All of them were underwater, all of them. There was nothing, no disaster management, nothing was working. Everything was inundated. Thank you very much. And coming to the floods again, they're nothing new to Kashmir. You can see it's a very flat topography. You might think of Kashmir as hills, but this is very, very flat. And it's been ravaged by floods from times immemorial. About 100 years back, we had floods in Srinagar, and it remained inundated for 2 years. 2 years. And since then, we did some intervention. Then after that, nothing has been done in the last 120 odd years. If one would look at the reasons or what we call the uniqueness of the floods in Kashmir, I personally feel, it's a joint venture between nature through topography. We have a very, very flat topography, very mild slopes, and climate change, which induces, more rainfall in shorter durations. And it's a result of the short-sightedness of our politicians, the apathy and the indifference of our bureaucracy to address the local issues, the inability of the engineers here to push, drive, and stand by their technical proposals, and of course, the greeds of the locals who have indulged in rampant and blatant encroachment of the river, channel, and water bodies. When I say all this has resulted in filling of our waterways, our wetlands, and our flood detection basins, and instead we have regularized them by constructing offices, colonies, and other types of infrastructure. Both the government and the locals are guilty of this. The government's apathy can be gauged from the fact that the survey and investigation department, which was actually tracking the floods, was the division was wound up because they felt it wasn't needed. Any proposals had been mooted for the last 20 years about flood and flood mitigation proposals, but the bureaucracy wouldn't let it pass. So that is the scenario we are in. I'm sorry, it might feel a little more on the engineering side, but very quickly come to what I feel could be done. I had written about it, as you mentioned, I sometimes do occasionally write in newspapers. For me, this is the level of inundation that has taken place in Kashmir. The red is the river, and on the sides is the spread of the water in the 2014 floods. This was by far the worst that we have experienced in the last 120 years. So to me, the cheapest and the easiest solution is to construct a series of dams in the upper reaches of the river basin. These dams could be constructed on the basins and the sub-basins, and they could be fairly easy, little bit of equipment which could be leased out and could be done through rural development or public, the general intervention by the locals. Siltation is one of the main problems we face. There has been a lot of denudation of the forests have been cut. That has resulted in siltation. The river bed has risen, which would these check dams would arrest that, would recharge the groundwater and could be used for like picnic spots and even for water supply and for fisheries. And one of the main things, I think if you could go to the previous one, we have had a lot of encroachments, and this is an example of that encroachment. This is a flood spill channel in which the government actually constructed a breach. And this was one of the several reasons the whole city was inundated. This is the apathy of the government. The engineers had protested, but the bureaucracy overruled them. The district administration overruled them. And so I call this legal encroachment because this was properly authorized. We need to take care of the legal and illegal encroachments and do a lot of afforestation because of the problems we see due to siltation. And lastly, I'll very quickly capture the last slide. Yeah, in spite of, sorry, the one earlier. Yes, please, thank you. All this has happened. We have had the whole city submerged underwater, 12 feet, 14 feet, 18 feet of water at places, and we are still filling our wetlands. This is on the left side is the Indian Institute of Management, Srinagar. It's again going to be about 8 to 10 feet of filling. And on the right side, it's again a wetland. We are filling it up to make a university. And we have rehabilitated the inhabitants of Dal Lake in a similar area with about 14 feet of filling and filling of this wetland. So that was it. That was it from my side. There's been a complete apathy, and nothing has been done. I was just thinking if we get some time, this is the innovation people have using Syntex water tanks during the floods.
Okay, would you like half a minute to say anything more on this, on the innovation?
No, I was just okay,
on
the lighter side, just to show people innovate even in prime time.
So thank you so much, Pikarji. I think that I don't need to even summarize what you have said, but the key thing which really came out is the government's apathy. And though there are alternatives, which people and the local, locally there have been alternatives given, and still they are being overruled or overseen. And so I think that this is a classic example of what is happening with the government, where they are supposed to really intervene in this kind of a disaster. So there is nothing like disaster management or even preventing disaster. Thank you so much. Yeah.
There were proposals put up, there were consultancies engaged, but it was all overruled by the bureaucracy and nothing
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. This is what, and we heard about Hirakud Dam, where, all these companies, because they were interested in getting water, they were all engaged. So thank you so much. And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions asked, and we'll come back to you on that. I would now like to invite Sana, Ms. Sana Mahmood, who's also from Masood, sorry. She's also from Jammu and Kashmir. She's a managing director and CEO of Post-Harnessed Vertical of Farm to You. It is a service provider group for apple farms across Jammu and Kashmir. Sana has a very interesting background in terms of, she founded her own consultancy firm called Seed Solution. And she also found Kashmir's first women farmers collective in Anantnag district. In 2013, she joined this Pharma to You group, and 2014 flood really created a havoc for all their farmers. So I'm sure that she's going to bring that experience and also talk about how people have responded to that and what is her views on the reasons for this floods, and also whether government has intervened or not. Is something that we would really like to hear from her. She's been the recipient of awards, like she's got this Danfoss IC Women's Achievers Award in 2019, and she was also a representative as a delegate. She is representative delegate to Global Flood Security Program 2018 to Netherlands. So Sana, we are very, very happy to have you. And I'm sure that your experiences will really bring in, especially the gender dimension that we really talk when we talk about floods. We know that it affects everyone, but it affects women, children, and different castes and people differently. So thank you, Sana.
Thank you, Nafisa ji, for the introduction. And thank you, Dr. Iftikhar Drapuji, for the brief introduction to Kashmir floods. A lot of points have already been covered, so I'll not go through them. I also, like Mr. Drabu, had been first-hand witness of the floods, and it was the first time that we saw the colonies which had never seen a drop of flood water coming in were submerged to 2 floors. Underwater, and all our essential services, every other service that you could get support from was actually inundated, as the pictures were clearly showing. So the thing that I would take from there is that after the floods, I would say that there have been some modifications that I would like to talk about as a common man's modification of how they are living in these areas which were in floods. As said rightly, that the moment it starts raining, it rains for a day, and we are all on the Facebook tracking the river and where it has reached, because the flood channels are so full, they have not been cleared up, so they fill up very fast. So the danger mark is going to be crossed in few hours of heavy rain. So what happens is that we have got this psyche in us, that the moment it rains, it crosses a certain landmark, we start packing the stuff in the ground floor and we start shifting the stuff. In fact, some of the people have also done modifications to their houses. Like people like us, we lost our home in the flood. We rebuilt at the same place because that's the land that we had. But in this new space, we have got everything is flood ready. So we are ready to move, and we can empty that place out in few hours. Some of the people have also shifted their kitchens from ground floor to first floor so that they don't have to move the kitchen, which is the most difficult part. And they have also raised the height of the buildings, considering what the level of the floods was in the last floods. But apart from this, I think the government has forgotten about the floods. So have the people who are very greedy, and I see features like basements being built in areas which had flood water, and which have a water table of just where the water table is just like 4 feet below the ground, and you're building high-rise buildings with basements in those areas without proper construction advice, and things like these are happening. So the fear that I have, looking at how things are happening, I feel that floods are something that we cannot avoid for long. But as we have not geared ourselves up, we are up for another disaster in the future, and this time we'll face more loss of life, I feel, than last time, because last time our houses were not as high as they are now, but now we'll see houses toppling over one over the other, and things like that might happen. The other thing which I feel is something that the government should have taken care of is that last time none of our essential services were functional, but there were areas which were around the older city, which were on higher ground, I would say. The essential services should be moved to such places, but no, sir, we are not thinking about it at all. So the government has forgotten about the floods fully, and the rest of the things which Professor already showed, how our wetlands are being filled up. So those are the things that I feel, in a nutshell, are the things that are concerning us in day-to-day basis, that what we are up for in the future. Coming to agriculture, I would just little brief about how floods are in Kashmir. So we have got the valley, and then there are also some areas which are called the Kandi areas, or the higher belts, which have got slopes and hills. So the flood had a different kind of impact in terms of agriculture on both of these. Like the cluster that I was working on was on a high altitude area, and in those areas we had heavy rain and we had landslides. Those areas were not submerged, so you had more like a flash flood situation. So in those areas there was loss of the topsoil, and you can understand that once the topsoil erodes, the fertility of the particular area came down drastically, and then it was very hard for them to cultivate anything for the next few years. Even now they are struggling with poor quality of soil in those areas. On the other hand, you have the plains, where of course you have the silt coming in, hence the productivity should be better than next year, the fertility goes up. But we see that now we are not doing, there's a shift in our cultivation patterns from paddy to other crops. And as we do not have enough embankments in these areas, and people are investing heavily in high value agriculture, and even in terms of orchard building, which is like a 30-year investment, people are making these investments in areas which are prone to floods, which have been flooded but will be flooded again, and there will be a lot of loss of the investment of farmers in certain areas. The issue is that the government has not thought about how to safeguard the farmer in the future in case there is a possibility of flood, or of having a certain guidelines about which areas should be used for which crops or which should not be used in this case. So like we do apple orchards, and we do high density apple orchards, so we tell the farmers to not invest in an apple orchard in a low lying area. But there are many service providers, and many do give that service to them. They do not care about what is going to happen 30 years down the line, and they are advising them to fill it up, and they're still going to plant these, and they're going to lose these. Apart from this, we had also seen that even in certain areas there was a lot of loss to the apple farmers who were having traditional apple trees, and because the water stayed in those areas for a very long time, the trees actually got root rot, and years of the hard work of the farmers went to waste. So such things need to also be looked into. And I feel in case of a flood or a place which is regularly going to be flooded, agriculture and farming practices and livelihood practices should also be a case study for the government, and certain advisories should also be shared with people in general, so that such losses can be avoided in the future.
Jana, thank you so much. I think you brought in very interesting perspective and the kind of understanding from the ground as to what were people's responses to the flood, you know, in terms of housing or anything like that. And at the same time, of course, there were also people who also kept on building the basement and things like that. And same thing like what Iftikhar just said, you also agree that you know, there was the indifference from the government, and they've not done anything to prevent, intervene, and things like this. And also that what you are saying is what needs to be done is a kind of advisory on shifting agriculture. I mean, because then that needs to be, that pool of knowledge needs to be brought in to, so that to advise people where to do what, because traditionally they've been doing something in certain ways. So thank you so much for this very, very interesting kind of a scenario and understanding. I mean, bringing this understanding. I would now like to invite Lubaina. Lubaina, she's from Mumbai. And so we are now going to talk about the urban floods. And Lubaina is an urban planner and architect with 14 years of experience in India and US. She's worked. She has been working with World Resource Institute since 8 years as a senior manager and on urban development and resilience. For sustainable cities. She's a researcher and has led and co-authored several publications. She has led development urban community resilience assessment tool. I think this would be very interesting to understand more. I mean, especially from the research point of view, how do you kind of assess that and continue to work in climate resilience in Indian cities and in vulnerable communities. So, Lubaina, welcome, and please share your thoughts.
Thank you. Hello everyone, thank you. I wanted to actually share my screen, but it's saying host is disabled the screen sharing. If someone can help me share, just enable the
screen. Yeah.
Neha?
I got it. So hi everyone. I'm going to speak of from 2 points today. As a resident of Mumbai, having lived through many floods and recurrent experiences of waterlogging in the city, as a planner who's working in the city, but also from some of our recent work, as Nafisa ji introduced me on community resilience from other cities in India. We've worked in Surat, and now currently we're working in Kochi, but also from Semarang in Indonesia, to talk about some of the experiences people are having with the everydayness of floods and how they are adapting on a sort of daily basis. So this is, really old map of Mumbai. It used to be 7 islands. I'm sure a lot of you probably know this story about our city. And Mumbai is basically a city that has been reclaimed on water. This map basically shows the 7 islands, and all of the land in the middle, which is hatched with these horizontal lines, is all reclaimed land. And the dotted hatches are basically land that has been taken from the water later, in the 20th century. And because of this, the city's natural processes of draining out, because it's an island city and has rivers that drain into the sea. The natural processes of siltation, erosion, estuary movement, the ways in which the mangroves protect the coast are all highly compromised and have been compromised over the years. Even currently, the way in which the suburbs are actually also growing. We are basically building on the river ecosystems and building over creeks, turning them into canals or drains. And in fact, this highlighted portion talks about, it shows the central Mumbai region, which is currently one of the hotspots for real estate development, with the Milllands being redeveloped into these 60 to 100 story buildings, coming up in largely in land which is already under pressure. So I mean, just to sort of talk about the fact that the way in which we have developed, and so the flood story of Mumbai is also the urban development story of Mumbai, and that is kind of the point I'm trying to make here. And that the way that we have sort of developed our city, waterlogging and flooding has become almost a permanent experience of our monsoon. So the moment, through the summer, and at least in the last month of from mid-May to June, we're really aching for the monsoons to arrive. But it's also with this kind of, as someone also quoted, the happy sad experience of the feeling of the monsoon is very much a story of Mumbai. That also the precipitation trends over the years have shown that we are receiving lesser number of days of monsoon in the season, with many dry patches, but the days of heavy rainfall have actually increased. So the frequency of flood events have actually increased over the years, and we are seeing the most kind of like this year a lot of infrastructure failure even in the fairly richer areas of the city. That we experienced, and but to kind of end my introduction on the point that while flooding is one of Mumbai's biggest and most critical challenges, and we speak about it in the public realm, in personal experiences, and a lot of anger on social media, waterlogging is I think, to me, a bigger nightmare, because people who live in informal settlements and are users of public transit in the city actually live through this nightmare of wading through water or living through water. Even with like half an hour of rainfall, their homes are flooded. So I think the story of waterlogging in Mumbai is also something that one must actually speak about quite critically. To talk about these experiences. I mean, when I was speaking with Eklavya, I was talking about, how my cook comes from just across the road, but the road actually leads to the sea. So when there is waterlogging because of the sea's natural current or the current of the water draining into the sea, for her it feels like she's crossing a river. So there are these ropes that are tied, and they have to sort of hold the rope and just come to work. I mean, and it's not even that the city is completely stalled. It is certain areas, because of not understanding these currents, have not really built up to manage these kinds of waters, right? This is our railway line, which is basically the spine of Mumbai. It is how we travel to work, to any place in the city, and very often the railway lines are actually stalled because of waterlogging. And in fact, now in COVID, we are seeing a lot of these stories around public transport because the trains are not working. People are spending about 8 hours to get to work or get home. But really to think about the fact that is almost an everyday experience during a flood. So whenever, I walk actually very close to where this photo is taken, we keep looking out from the window to see pani upar aaya ki nahi, then we'll basically leave and, just say that, okay, it's pretty precarious. We should take the last train out so that we don't get stuck for like 5 hours till the water recedes. So these are the kind of experiences. And then to think about the access to essential services. So in a lot of informal settlements, there are water taps and access to toilets, etc., are below sea level. So when their settlements get waterlogged, they actually don't have access to services at all. And this is just like a regular day. It's not even that, you know, we have had a 100-year flood and this is an experience. It's a very everyday experience in the city. But now also to sort of go to some.
Lubaina, can I please request you to, can you summarize in terms of what are your recommendations? I mean, what is it that you see need to be done, you know?
So, I mean, one of the things from the sort of planning perspective is to actually make climate data more accessible to planning departments, and to really, I mean, the problem is that we are seeing this as a disaster management problem in Mumbai. It needs to also be looked at as a planning problem. And we need to plan in the long term using some of this climate information, using risk experiences as part of the ways in which we decide land use, the amount of built up area we allow in certain neighborhoods. If you know, we have now we have projects like the coastal road that are coming up, which is basically reclaiming a good 50 to 60 meters into the sea, and possibly going to you know, to bring in a lot of real estate impetus along the coast, which is not the smartest thing. And in fact, a lot of Western countries are disinvesting from the coast, meaning they're moving away their development away from the coast, so that the losses are actually mitigated. And in our cities, we're actually seeing the opposite, you know. And so to basically, I think that would be my big recommendation is planning and management can actually be hand in hand and start speaking to each other. And they're both the departments within the corporation and the same corporation. So yeah, I think this is
okay. Thank you so much, Lubaina, for giving that vivid picture. And I think that this even understanding of what is Mumbai and you know, the analysis of what has happened. I mean, why there is flood in Mumbai, because you know, the way we've reclaimed land from water and then trying to, you know, settle on that. Since, you know, time is running short, I would now request our last speaker from Kerala, Mr. MP Shajan. He's a district resource person for People's Planning Program in Puthivellekara Gram Panchayat, which is in Ernakulam district. He's got an experience of more than 25 years at the grassroots. He's associated with Biodiversity Management Committee, Western Ghat Hornbill Foundation. He is also associated with River Protection Program and with River Knowledge Capacity Building. He's doing this with children in terms of his campaign. And he's also editor of Social Magazine in Malayalam. So I would invite Mr. Shajan to speak about the floods in Kerala. I think that we all have read so much about what has been happening in Kerala since last couple of years. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. The Nadu Puthanvelikara.
So Mr. Shajan, yeah, he will be
Malayalam.
In Malayalam, and then someone will translate it.
Yes, okay. പശ്ചിമഘട്ട മലനിരകളിൽ നിന്ന് ഒഴുകി എത്തുന്ന പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട രണ്ട് നദികൾ പെരിയാർ ആൻഡ് ചാലക്കുടിയാർ ഇത് സംഗമിക്കുന്ന പുത്തൻവേലിക്കര എന്ന ഈ ഗ്രാമത്തിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ 2018-ലുണ്ടായ ഒരു വലിയ പ്രളയം വളരെ വലിയ ഭീകരമായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു അവസ്ഥയാണ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. ഈ രണ്ട് നദികളും സംഗമിക്കുന്ന തീരം എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ വളരെ അഭിമാനത്തോടു കൂടി പറഞ്ഞിരുന്ന, ഇപ്പോഴും അഭിമാനത്തോടു കൂടി തന്നെ പറയുന്നു, ഈ പുഴകളുടെ ദാനമാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ നാട്. വളരെ ജൈവ സമ്പന്നമായ ജൈവ വൈവിധ്യമുള്ള വലിയ സമ്പന്നമായ ഒരു വില്ലേജാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടേത്. ഏകദേശം ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രദേശം സീ ലെവലിൽ നിന്നും താഴെയുള്ള ജലാശയങ്ങളും നെൽപ്പാടങ്ങളുമുള്ള ഈ ഗ്രാമം വളരെ വിഭവ സമ്പന്നമായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഈ 2018 ഈ പ്രളയം ഈ പ്രദേശത്തെ മുഴുവൻ തകർന്ന് വലിയ തകർച്ചയാണ് നേരിട്ടത്. വലിയ ദുരന്തങ്ങളും ഉണ്ടായി. 12 പേർ മരണപ്പെട്ടു. കൃഷിയും ഞങ്ങളുടെ സ്ഥലങ്ങളും വീടും മത്സ്യകൃഷിയും എല്ലാം തകർത്തെറിഞ്ഞ ഒരു വലിയ ദുരന്തമാണ് 2018 ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ 2018 ആ ദുരന്തം നേരിട്ടപ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങളെ ഒരുപാട് പേര് സഹായിക്കാനുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഈ ഗ്രാമത്തെ കൈപിടിച്ചുയർത്തുവാൻ ലോകത്തിന്റെ പല ഭാഗത്തു നിന്നുമുള്ള ഒരുപാട് വ്യക്തികളും സന്നദ്ധ സംഘടനകളും ഒക്കെ ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിച്ചിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ തുടർന്ന് 2019 ഈ ഫ്ലഡ് ഉണ്ടായപ്പോൾ ഇത് ഈ പുഴയെക്കുറിച്ചും പുഴയുടെ ഉത്ഭവത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും പുഴയിലുള്ള നിർമ്മിതികളെക്കുറിച്ചും ഡാമുകളെക്കുറിച്ചുമൊക്കെ മനുഷ്യര് ചിന്തിക്കുവാനും സംസാരിക്കാനും തുടങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് ആ കാര്യവും കൂടി ഞാൻ ഓർമ്മപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. അതിൽ നിന്നാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു പഠനം വീണ്ടും ആരംഭിക്കുന്നത്. സാധാരണ ജനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും ഈ പ്രദേശത്ത് ഉണ്ടാകാൻ സാധ്യതയുള്ള ഒരു പ്രദേശമായി മാറിയെന്ന് ഉള്ള ഒരു സാഹചര്യം ഈ ഗ്രാമം ഫേസ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടെന്നുള്ളത് സാധാരണ ജനങ്ങളും ബോധ്യപ്പെട്ട ഒരു സമയമായിരുന്നത്. തുടർച്ചയായ ഫ്ലഡും അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ കാലാവസ്ഥയിൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന വലിയ മാറ്റങ്ങൾ, അതിതീവ്ര മഴയും ഒക്കെ പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കേണ്ട ഒരു സമയം, പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിലേക്ക് ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രദേശവും മാറിയെന്നുള്ള ജനങ്ങളും ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട അധികാരികളും എല്ലാവരും ബോധ്യപ്പെട്ട ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിലാണ് കേരള സർക്കാർ, ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഓഫ് സ്റ്റേറ്റ്, എല്ലാ തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളുടെയും നേതൃത്വത്തിൽ ദുരന്ത നിവാരണ പദ്ധതി രേഖ തയ്യാറാക്കുവാനായിട്ടുള്ള ഉത്തരവുണ്ടായി. പക്ഷേ എല്ലാ തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളിലെ നിന്നും ഏകദേശം 20 അംഗങ്ങളെ തെരഞ്ഞെടുത്ത് ഇതിന്റെ പദ്ധതി രേഖ തയ്യാറാക്കാനായി റിസോഴ്സ് ടീം, ഒരു 20 മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ഈ സമിതിക്ക് രൂപം കൊടുക്കുകയും അതിന്റെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള പരിശീലനം കേരള ലോക്കൽ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് ഏജൻസി അതിന്റെ പരിശീലനം കൊടുക്കുകയൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായി. പക്ഷെ ആ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ ഈ പദ്ധതി രേഖ തയ്യാറാക്കുന്ന അവസ്ഥയിൽ പരിശീലനങ്ങളിൽ തന്നെ വളരെ കാര്യക്ഷമമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഇടപെടൽ ഉണ്ടായില്ല എന്നുള്ളത് മാത്രമല്ല, കേരള സർക്കാർ സംവിധാനങ്ങളും തദ്ദേശ സ്വയംഭരണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളും അതിൽ നിന്നും പിൻവാങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു കാഴ്ചയാണ് ഉണ്ടായത്. പക്ഷെ ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഈ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് കൂടുതൽ വിപുലപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് സ്വതന്ത്രമായി ഈ മഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന, പുഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന, ഗ്രൗണ്ട് വാട്ടർ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിലേക്ക് ഞങ്ങൾ ഈ സമിതിയുടെ ആക്ടിവിറ്റീസ് ആരംഭിക്കുകയും അതിനായിട്ടുള്ള ചാലക്കുടി പുഴ സംരക്ഷണ സമിതിയും അതോടൊപ്പം ഡോക്ടർ CG മധുസൂദനൻ, ഡോക്ടർ KH അമിതാഭ് ബച്ചൻ ഇവരുടെയൊക്കെ ഒരു നേതൃത്വത്തിൽ ഞങ്ങൾ കുറച്ച് മഴ മാപിനികൾ സ്ഥാപിച്ചു. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ പുഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള ട്രഡീഷണൽ ഫിഷ് ഫാമേഴ്സ് അവരുടെ ഒരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഫോം ചെയ്തു, ഫാമേഴ്സിന്റെ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഫോം ചെയ്തു. അങ്ങനെ പുഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന, പുഴയിൽ ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്നവരും മഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന ഗ്രൂപ്പുകളും അതിനുവേണ്ടി മഴ മാപിനി സ്ഥാപിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു. അങ്ങനെ മഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളും പുഴയെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്ന പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളും അതോടൊപ്പം ഓപ്പൺ വെൽ കിണറുകളിലെ ജലനിരപ്പ് നോക്കി നിരീക്ഷിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഭൂഗർഭ ജലത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള ഒരു പഠനവും തുടങ്ങുകയുണ്ടായി. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഈ ഗ്രാമത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ഇപ്പോൾ 2020 കടക്കുമ്പോൾ 2018 19 വെള്ളപ്പൊക്കം തുടർച്ചയായി നേരിടുകയും അതോടൊപ്പം അതിനിടയ്ക്കൊരു വരൾച്ച നേരിടുകയും ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ ഈ പുഴയെക്കുറിച്ച് പഠിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിൽ ഈ പുഴയെ കൂടുതൽ അറിയാനും പുഴയിലെ ഡാം മാനേജ്മെന്റ് സിസ്റ്റത്തെ കുറിച്ച് അറിയാനും ഈ ഡ്രൈനേജ് സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ ഉണ്ടായ കൈവഴികൾ ഇതെല്ലാം ചെളി അടഞ്ഞുപോയ ചില സാഹചര്യങ്ങളും ഉണ്ടായപ്പോൾ ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ സമഗ്രമായി പഠിക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി ഈ പ്രദേശത്തെ പുഴത്തടങ്ങളിലെ ഇറിഗേഷൻ ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥർ, എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് ആൻഡ് ഈ റവന്യൂ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് എല്ലാവരെയും ഉൾക്കൊള്ളിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഈ
Shajanji, I'll have to just sorry.
1 minute.
Okay. Because your recommendations, if have they been written in English? There was this last slide.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Is there? No, I'm just asking. Is there? Have they been written in English? Since we are not translating, I mean.
In fact, I had mailed those points to Neha, but unfortunately, that has not been included.
Okay, yeah, because then someone will. I mean, I think that it's important that what the recommendations he's talking about, if they can be just put in English. Ravi, is it possible for you to just come in? I mean, and I would really request everyone to just stay for a few more minutes. I mean, though we decided that we will finish. I mean. We will close by 5:30, but still question answers we need to address. So I would just request everyone to please bear with us and stay for a few minutes more. So Ravi, is it possible you can come in with the recommendations?
Yeah, sure. Shall I speak?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Shajanji, we are just, it's okay now, Shajanji? Yeah, okay.
Yes, Shajan was describing the floods in 2018 as well as in 2019. He was saying that endowed with 2 river basins, actually the 2 main rivers join in that place. But after the continuous floods, they have now realized that they'll have to anticipate floods on on any year, in fact. After these floods, the government actually came up with some initiatives, and they have asked local self-governments to prepare disaster management plans. And also 20-member people's response team has been constituted, and they have been provided training in Kerala Institute of Local Administration. Unfortunately, nothing went beyond that. After this training, nothing happened from government side. But Shajan and his team did not leave it at that, and with the help of experts as well as other people, they are now developing some climate resilience plan and flood management plans. And this year, they started monitoring the monsoon right from the beginning. They were taking inputs from various places, and they were analyzing the situation, and they were informing people about the upcoming events, and they intend to develop that in future also, and hope that the government will at some stage step in, and a joint initiative can be developed.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ravi, and thank you all the speakers. I don't think I have any time to summarize anything of what all the speakers talked about, but I think that we would now like to take up the questions. So Soma, I would request Somaji to take over and facilitate the question answer session.
Thank you, Nafisa. मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ, आ रही.
Okay. There have been several interesting questions posed in the question and answer box, but before I get to them, थोड़ा सा जो परिपेक्ष हमारे सामने नजर आ रहा है, the story that's emerging from the presentations today and linking it to the previous seminar, I think it's important to take cognizance of the fact that the community members that we have had making presentations today have been talking as much about the rights of people as they have about the rights of the river itself, in terms of the flow of the river, in terms of the siltation within the river, in terms of the flooding processes, because the natural processes of the river and the water bodies has been disrupted, the way that the wetlands and the ecological balance within these locations have really been disrupted by the processes of development, such as highways, roads, forests being taken over for coal mines, etc. So the interlinkages of the flooding process with the overall ecological footprint and how the disruptions have happened in the context of destructive development are emerging as the larger kind of discourse. In that context, अभी मैं सुकीला दीदी से पूछना चाहूंगी कि सुकीला दीदी है, हमारी सवाल है सुकीला दीदी? दीदी आप हैं हमारे साथ? आपसे एक सवाल था. Ekalavya, can you check if she is with us?
I will do that.
I don't see her.
ठीक है, तो we'll come back to her. पहले फिर चक्रधर भाई से बोलते हैं. उनको हमने बहुत कम दिया था, समझ के चर्चा के लिए भी समय देंगे. चक्रधर भाई, आपके पास दो तरह के सवाल हैं जो हमारे सहभागियों ने आपके लिए रखे हैं. The first is the question about your experience of working in this field. Elected government seems to be working for the problem, but what is it that we are doing wrong is the generic question that is being asked. And the related question, of course, is that of how do people cope? What is it that they are doing to manage this situation and to be able to augment their resources to be able to deal with this? And what are the adaptation strategies that you see moving forward that you'd like to suggest?
Soma, unfortunately, Chakradhar ji had to leave because unka bandwidth, he sent a message saying ki bandwidth kam tha and connectivity issues thi. So he has left his email ID.
Okay.
And we will revert to him with the question. And जिन्होंने question सवाल पूछा है, we'll get back to them with the answer.
Yeah. Thank you for those questions, and we will certainly be responding to them directly on the mail. But to point to the fact that having lived in that region and worked in that region with several women's organizations and with development organizations, I think it's important to understand that people's lives have been woven around the rhythm of these rivers and of the tributaries and the system of flow and ebb within these rivers. And that this has really been something that people have been living for centuries. And when that is disrupted, and now we find much more, as Chakradhar Bhai said, much more of the land being cut due to the velocity of the water that is flowing in the river, and the ferocity with which the floods are occurring, as somebody else mentioned, that there is less predictability of the seasonality, and yet there is greater intensity of the rain. People have had to shift from this rhythm of managing their lifestyles and adapting to those rhythms to actually having to deal with unprecedented changes in climate, but not only in climate, in the circumstances they are confronted with much more of the land being taken for urbanization, highway projects, and for the projects of development that we see around us. When Chakradhar Bhai was discussing this with us yesterday, he mentioned that even the area where the oil blast has happened recently, that entire region is ravaged not only by the floods and the oil blast that has happened, but the loss of livelihoods will take many years to be able to address because of this conflict between the resources and how they are to be used in a more ecologically sustainable manner. So I think that's the point here. I'll move to the next question. Somebody has their sound on.
There is, yeah.
हाँ दीदी शकीला दीदी आ गई हैं, तो शकीला दीदी आपसे मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगी, जो सवाल आए हैं, जो चर्चा हो रही है दीदी, कि हमारे यहाँ हर जगह ये बात आ रही है, मेरी बात सुनाई दे रही है?
जी,
तो हर जगह, जी, तो हर जगह
आ रही है, आवाज रुक
अच्छा,
रही है।
तो मैं थोड़ा धीरे बोलती हूँ। तो हर जगह, चाहे हम असम की बात करें, बिहार की बात करें, कश्मीर की बात करें, या बम्बई की बात करें, ये बात आ रही है कि लोग तो अपना जीवन जी रहे थे, वो अपनी खेती भी कर रहे थे, धान भी रोप रहे थे, अपनी फसल भी निकाल रहे थे, और उनको मालूम था कि किस तरह की पानी और किस तरह की बाढ़ किन मौसम में आने वाली है, तो थोड़ी तैयारी करके रखते थे, है ना? अब क्या हुआ है कि वो नहीं कर पा रहे हैं वो तैयारी। आपके अनुभव से आप थोड़ा बताइए कि क्या बदलाव अपनी जिंदगी में देखते हैं, जो पहले बाढ़ से जूझने में इतनी होती थी, अब एकदम से बाढ़ आती है और एकदम से परेशानी आती है और लंबे समय के लिए। तो इसके पीछे आपको क्या लगता है, क्या बदला है आपको?
हम तो क्या बदलेंगे दीदी, अब कुछ नहीं बदला है। अभी जितना हम लोग का पानी आती है उससे तो हम लोग का परेशानी ही है। जैसे कि हमारे पंचायत में जो बागमती नदी है ना, बागमती नदी और छोटी छोटी नदियाँ जो है सब आकर के यही में मिल जाती, और यहाँ से कहीं पानी का बहाव है नहीं, इसलिए हम लोग को इतना परेशानी हो रही है।
तो पानी बैठ जाता है, पकड़ जाता है, और उसके बहने के लिए तरीका नहीं
है। यही हम लोग चाह रहे हैं कि जो करे नदी जो है ना उसमें।
Soma, I think we need to take some questions which are addressed to Lubaina. There are two questions which I see which are addressed to Lubaina. Can you please take up that? One is on waterlogging.
Okay, we'll take that after Sukila Didi immediately. हाँ सुकीला दीदी, आप जरा बताइए, आपसे ये भी पूछ रहे हैं कि धरती का जो बहाव था, अभी धरती के
आवाज नहीं आ रही है दीदी
के पास वापस आते हैं। थोड़ा बंबई में जो लुबाइना दीदी हैं उनसे बात करते हैं। लुबाइना, you are seeing the questions in the Q&A box, I assume.
Yes, I was trying to type my answer as well, but both the questions are actually similar, so I'll try and sort of answer it together. One point which I already made is that I think the problem is that land use planning and disaster management are two different processes in the city right now, and this is actually true across Indian cities. What I think needs to, what I would recommend and that needs to happen is that we start integrating climate risk and a lot of knowledge that disaster management agencies are aggregating through their disaster protocol to inform the ways in which we allow for development to happen in the city. So de-densifying some areas and increasing, say, natural nature-based solutions in some areas, creating more pervious surfaces. So, you know, a lot of our city is concretized, and how can that trend be changed, and creating more kind of natural drains as part of the ways in which our kind of neighborhoods function. I mean, the second question actually is talking about what are the kind of discussions and plans that are related to natural draining in waterlogged, like low-lying areas which are prone to waterlogging. I think the problem right now is that the more of these high ticket projects. Hello?
Yes, please continue.
So the tendency is right now is to move towards, you know, these big infrastructure projects. So there is, you know, a consideration of this large underground flood draining tank. There is a discussion around that, which is a solution being used in Tokyo. There is the coastal road is being spoken about as a climate resilient infrastructure that is going to ward against sea level rise. So the tendency is to kind of move towards mega infrastructure project. I think what needs to actually happen is that we need to really look at smaller solutions and more community based solutions, like how can our neighborhoods become more flood proofed. How can we improve more how can we promote nature based solutions as a very sort of easily and acceptable way in which our cities sort of start developing. So I think that trend needs to change, and that is where sort of the gap is.
So you're pointing to a more inclusive and community centered approach where communities themselves get involved in the process of making these things happen. Sana,
more
can we go to
decentralized.
Kashmir? Yeah, a decentralized and localized solution process. I'd like to bring Sana and Iftikhar Bhai into the conversation because they also referred to waterlogging and drainage channels being choked and wetlands being used for urbanization and construction. Would you agree with this? Would you have any other suggestions to offer, Sana?
I agree with this. I think we really need to relook at how the planning is happening and what the disaster situation can be, because there are many cities in the world, as was pointed out, which are also below the sea level and where reclaimed land is being used. I mean, if you look at Netherlands, it's a very small place and they are working on reclaimed land from the sea. But then there's no issue of waterlogging. There is no issue of all these things. So it's planned very well and we forget about it. We feel like we should have a separate wing for planning the city, and there is a separate wing that takes care of disaster management. So these two departments definitely need to talk to each other.
Yeah. You, Iftikhar Bhai, would you like to comment on the nature of technologies then that need to be deployed? You mentioned a series of dams. How does that fit into this kind of an alternative framework?
No, I think if you look at it, the volume of water, the discharge, was 3 times the carrying capacity of the river.
Right.
Now you obviously cannot be. There is a proposal going on to dig a parallel channel, but that means making 3 rivers running into thousands of acres of acquisition, disruption. All the paddy fields will go, and it will take about 40 to 50 years to construct that. So the best is to make small dams, not really dams, they are small dams about 10, 15 meters maximum height, using local material, local technology, local labor, and a cascade of them. And so that before the rainy season, you arrest all the water in them. As soon as we need to get proper technology in these remote sensing equipment, which can track the rainfall, the discharges, the runoffs. And then accordingly, we need to have a centralized command center where these dams release the water. And as soon as you feel there's an apprehension of flood, you start storing them. So that kind of an integrated approach is there. I mean, as I had alluded to in my short discussion, we need to empower the engineers. The basic problem, I'm not sure people will agree with me, is that engineers over a period of time have lost their relevance. When you talk of planning, you don't allow planners to do any planning. It's all political intervention. And
so we have now varied perspectives coming into the discussion. Do engineers hold all the solutions? Do they need to take an approach where they are working with communities to resolve the balance between technological solutions and ecological footprints of these solutions that are being sought? How do we balance these, and how do we make these solutions locally relevant so that the landscapes are restored, livelihoods are restored, as well as people's ability to adapt and manage their livelihoods? Would Shahjan like to come into the questions that have been raised in the context of Kerala? Ravi, could you please facilitate that? Ravi?
ഷാജൻ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഈ ചോദ്യങ്ങളുടെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ?
Okay.
ഷാജൻ
ഒന്നും കൂടി പറഞ്ഞോളൂ, കേട്ടില്ല ഇവിടെ.
അല്ലെ, ഇപ്പൊ കുറച്ച് ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു, എന്തെങ്കിലും അതിനകത്ത് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പറയാനുണ്ടോ എന്ന്.
എന്തിലാണ്?
The question is really about the discussion is currently, one is the questions that have been raised for him in the question box, if you could look at that. The other is about the kind of solutions that we need. You mentioned the transgression of salinity into the riverine systems. How are we going to resolve that? Are technological fixes all that we are looking for? Or are there restorative ecologic solutions that we need to look at? And a combination of the both need to bring people together with technologies and state to be able to resolve those solutions. Where do we go from here is the question that is being raised.
പരിസ്ഥിതിയെ കൂടി കണക്കിലെടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് ജനങ്ങളുടെ പങ്കാളിത്തത്തോടു കൂടി എന്താണ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുക എന്നാണ് ചോദിച്ചത്.
സർക്കാർ ഏജൻസികൾക്ക്, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഗവേഷണ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾക്ക്, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഡിസാസ്റ്റർ മാനേജ്മെന്റ് സിസ്റ്റം ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടി താഴെ തട്ടിലുള്ള അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓരോ ദിവസങ്ങളിലും ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന മാറ്റങ്ങൾ, അതിൻ്റെ കൃത്യമായ വിവരങ്ങൾ അത് ഈ താഴെയുള്ള സാധാരണ ജനങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും ലഭിക്കുകയുള്ളൂന്നും അത് ശേഖരിക്കുന്നതിനും അത് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനും സർക്കാർ സംവിധാനങ്ങൾ തയ്യാറാകണം എന്നതാണ് നമുക്കുള്ള നിർദ്ദേശം. അതിനാവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള സംവിധാനങ്ങൾ ഏർപ്പെടുത്തണം.
Yes. What Shajan is saying that the disaster management system has to incorporate the voices from the field, where they can specifically tell about various aspects in that particular region. In fact, in their experience, one of the major issues is regarding the tidal action of the sea that decides whether the river flows into the sea or not. So such inputs can be provided by the local people, and these have to be incorporated into the disaster management plans of the government.
All the solutions and the recommendations from everybody seem to be suggesting that we need more spaces for dialogue, and that the dialogue cannot only be at the level of policy, but in terms of design itself, where communities are knowledge holders since centuries and can bring a specific context to the kind of solutions which would be appropriate in their particular geographies. Or at the same time, technological innovations need to be brought in that will support those kind of adaptive strategies to be adopted, bringing men, women from the communities and their inherent and intergenerational knowledge to bear upon how those solutions would work for different segments of the population. I think it's important that we recognize that there are multiple stakeholders, multiple geographies, and we need therefore to look at localized and diverse solutions rather than a prescriptive, universalized generalization of the issue. So I will, have I left out any important, I think Ekalavya also, I wanted to invite him to talk a little bit about the geomorphic issues in Bihar and the flooding there, to connect to our discussion in the last webinar, and then thereafter to request Nafisa to please take over and conclude this webinar. Thank you so much. Ekalavya, if I may request you.
Soma, I think what is, because of the fact that we already 10 minutes above time, I'll be just brief, and later we can, we'll send the detailed input.
Yeah, but for the present.
Yeah, so we need to figure, I mean, we need to understand that, you know, in Bihar, basically, if you are asking me about Bihar, that is what I'm going to tell you. that in Bihar, you have basically two kinds of landscapes that have got created post 1952. One happens to be the flood-free zone and the other is the flood-prone zone. जो फ्लड फ्री जोन होता है वहां पर बाढ़ की आने की आशंकाएं कम होती हैं, और जो फ्लड प्रोन जोन होता है वो ज्यादातर वो इलाके को माना जाता है जो दोनों तटबंध के बीच में होता है। अब इशू इसमें ये होता है कि ये जो इलाके हैं क्या इसमें सिंगल रिवर्स फेड है, मल्टीपल रिवर्स हैं, और यहाँ पर हमें देखने को मिलता है कि हमारी 7 मुख्य नदियां हैं और उसके साथ साथ बहुत सारी सहायक नदियां भी आके मिलती हैं, जिससे नदियों का जो एक प्रोफाइल है, the profile of the river kind of changes. Shakila Didi, what she was trying to mention repeatedly in her presentation was, she mentioned 2 river systems. 3. She mentioned about Bagmati, she mentioned about Kare, and there was a mention in her presentation about Adhwara Samu. Now, if we have to understand the location of Didi's river, Didi's Panchayat, the Panchayat actually is surrounded by 2 river systems upstream. One is Bagmati and the other is the various rivers in the Adhwara Samu. अब इनका कहना होता है कि जब अधवारा समूह में और बागमती में पानी का जल का स्तर बढ़ता है, that is the reason why the flooding happens in their Panchayat. Now downstream, बागमती आगे जाकर करह से मिलती है. Now करह से मिलने के बाद क्या होता है, जो जिसका हमारे यहाँ the mouth of the river actually gets clogged, because of which again the water, जैसे वो बार बार कह रही थी कि हमारे यहाँ इस समय 3 महीना पानी था, फिर बारिश हुई है, फिर पानी आ गया. So the fact there is that, it is, when we talk about rivers, it's not only just one river system, there are multiple crisscrossing even within the embankments. So that is what, I mean, the reason why she kept on saying कि पानी निकालना है, चाहे हम किसी भी तरीके से पानी का बहाव को maintain करें, so that जो standing water है, flood water, उसकी अवधि जो पहले कम होती थी, अब फिर उसे कम करने की जरूरत है, नहीं तो the water will keep standing. And there, as far as the remaining answer is concerned, Soma, we will revert back in detail.
Thank you so much. I think that kind of sums up what we are really talking about, that each location and topography has its own way of responding to this situation, and it has also been contorted by the kind of developmental projects that have come up there. So the solutions will also have to be evolved with the communities, with the state playing a role in listening to communities and working with them to invest in the kind of solutions that need to happen there. So without saying more, over to Nafisa.
Thank you, Soma. I don't think there is much left to be said. मुझे लगता है कि what today from everywhere, I think that there were some very common things which really came out. One was about the state's intervention. I mean, all this what we have been talking about development, which really has caused floods, and that the natural floods or whatever floods were there earlier, people knew and they were living with those floods, and so they knew how to deal with that. But these artificial human-created floods are the major problems. And so we have heard about those issues in a very elaborate way, and everybody is talking. I think the major issue which I feel, which is also coming out from this, that as an example, dams have been built, embankments have been built, so much has been done. Now, when we are talking about that, okay, for future, something like this must be done, right? I mean, to what extent what we are planning for future is going to reduce the negative impact of what has been already done in the past. So I just leave the audience with question. Because somewhere in at least the areas in Gujarat, some of the places where I work, and people were saying the only solution is that you break this dam, because this dam is really causing the problem. So if we are saying that you bring out a solution of that, in some cases, the solution may be really revisiting the past and seeing that what can be done. I mean, there are countries where the dams are being broken down because they are bringing more disaster. And so I think that in case of Assam or other places where embankments have been constructed so much and are being kind of built more, you know, the way is that, okay, so what needs to be done about those existing, I mean, the development which have already taken place. So I think that that is something that, yes, we need to bring in the designers, we need to bring in the planners, and we need to bring the communities, and especially women. Because we feel that, you know, if women's voices are not going to be heard, if they're not going to be in front, you know, as a front runner, I think that again there we will miss out a lot. And I would like to end here. Thank you all so much. Sarita, anything we want to, Sarita or Neha, Joy? Anyone would like to say anything?
I think that's great. On behalf of the forum, I would really like to thank all our panelists and our speakers. You brought out some very interesting points, and they've been very well summed up by both our moderators. So I thank Soma and Nafisa. Please continue to stay with us. We have this 3 more sessions following in the next 3 weeks. So our next webinar will be on the 24th. And please do join us for that. And we would like to conclude now. So thank you all once again for joining this webinar. And if Joy or Sarita would like to add anything, I'll hand over to them.
No, nothing from my side. Quite went very well. Thanks a lot for the moderators, the panelists, and all the other participants. Yeah.
Great. All right. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We'll conclude this session now.
Thank you, everyone.